Positive energy all the time. Good to see you all. Hope you're all having a great night. Here we go with another interesting conversation. Rep your city. We got New Orleans in the building. We have San Francisco, California in the building. We have Fresno, California in the house. Where else is everybody from? Represent your city. We show the city's love over here. We show it love all around the country. Where you living at? You can state where you living at and where you from. You can be like, I'm from so and so, but I'm currently here. Let's give the city some love. Okay. Let's give the city some love. I'm always in trouble. I'm always in trouble. I'm always in trouble. I think honestly, Indianapolis, Indiana, and I have my belief systems, I have my allegiance, but I think honestly, and I don't let my allegiance get in the way of my thought pattern. And so I don't mix the two together. So I just don't ride with something just because it seems like it's a part of my uh, mentality or my movement system or something like that. Like I did with the brother in Burkina. Me being, somewhat of a militant, and I'm pro Africa. I was supposed to just support him regardless of my thought process. And I have a tendency to not do that. I have a tendency to really go with my real thought process. And that's not too popular. I think particularly for black people, for black Americans, I think the way we think is not necessarily good a lot of times. I think sometimes we so busy supporting everything that it damages our credibility for other things. I think we damage our credibility when we overdo it with the black support system. I don't think that's wise, because it starts to make us look fraudulent, like we're not really standing on nothing. Like this case right here. It makes us look like we ain't on nothing. It's like the little boy that cried wolf, He was up there watching the sheep and he kept saying, it's wolf, wolf, wolf. And everybody ran up there, wasn't no wolf. Then the second time, wolf, wolf, wolf. And everybody ran up there and there wasn't no wolf. So the third time he's hollering, wolf, wolf, but there was really a wolf that attacked him. And so I think for black people, especially foundational black Americans, I think we can't be just crying wolf. We can't just be jumping on everything just because it seems to be black. Because then we start looking crazy. It's like Trump. I don't think we should just automatically go against everything Trump do if you didn't vote for Trump. I think you need to, really look at it. Just like, oh, it's Trump. No, it's no good, like that. I don't think that's healthy. So we're going to talk about this situation because Trump has launched an investigation into the CPS Black Student Success Plan that Chicago Public Schools have initiated. Now, before I get started, let me give my main man some props, even though I'm saying the opposite of what he said. Ugh. So go support my brother right here. I don't know him, but he's my brother. I watch him all the time. Go and subscribe to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Tell him Pharaoh said that, sent you over there. That's my man. I watch him every time he posts something. I watch him. He's always on point. Just tonight, tonight I'm going against him a little bit tonight. Where's the conversation? It might be live. This conversation right here. Which one is it? What conversation is that? Where is it? I don't see it. Okay, these say members only, members only, members only. So it's not these. So it's got to be one of these. Ooh, he's working. Look, 4 hours, 3 hours. This one. Trump declares war on schools over Black student success plan. So this time I don't agree with my brother, but I respect what he's doing. He's standing up for us. So I do respect it, that he's standing up for us. And a lot of times it's your intentions. You understand? Right? So we're going to get into that. I'm going to give my point of view on that. Y'all hit that like button, right? Hit the like button and send this out too, right? And hit the notification bell. Subscribe if you came over, subscribe. So like, share, and subscribe. That's very important. Like, share, and subscribe. I got to get me a few more likes so I could get to 50,000 subscribers, which is taking me 50,000 years because you know what I'm saying? Have you ever seen anybody so close and it takes so long? Oh my God. If I would if I would just play fair and say what everybody wants me to say, I could be at 100,000 subscribers. But no, Pharaoh, you got to be all difficult. I got to be all difficult so nobody likes me. Okay? I do it all for you all, okay? I take a beating for y'all. People they don't like my, how I'm looking at things a lot of times. Let's get 100 likes over here and we'll get started. They don't like the way I look at things. Let's get 100 people over here, 100 likes, whatever, one or the other. They don't like the way I look at things, but They don't like, Goshen, I understand, because what happens is when you're young and you're like a young pro-black person, you're real headstrong, right? So you're real headstrong. But coming up as a young pro-black person, I was headstrong. But the problem is that we had to read books to get information. And so we read books to get information, and that information, was very valuable. And we went out and we talked based on reading books and getting information. But nowadays, with social media, we get updated information and a more wide variety of information. And we be talking about things a little more technical, a little more in depth. When I was coming up teaching and stuff in the 80s, the late 70s and 80s, we wasn't talking in depth. You understand? We didn't know what was going on in Africa. So you take the brother in Burkina, all we would have known is he was a hero and that's it. We wouldn't have knew the details. We probably wouldn't have seen that he was shaking hands with the Russian leader or shaking hands with the Chinese leader. So all we would have known is he's standing up for black people. We wouldn't have knew the details of the situation. Well, me, I'm 67. I'm supposed to be washed up. And a lot of people don't like the fact that I'm more on top of it than younger people. I'm ahead of the young people, because our younger generation, they're not looking at something. They're not doing thorough research. They don't look in depth of these situations. They just see whatever's posted on Instagram and they ride with it. You younger people, y'all got to expand what y'all looking at on social media, what you're looking at on YouTube. You have to expand that. You can't wait for somebody to post it. You got to go and do your own research. You young black people, especially, y'all got to take advantage of all this knowledge on social media. And you got to kind of stay a little open-minded no matter what you see. So when you see something and you go, yeah, that's right. That's cool to say that's right, but only say that's right at about 60 or 70%. Always keep 30% on reserve to go and back up if it's right. Because if you see something and you say, yeah, that's right, and you jump on that 100%, now that clogs your mentality from being able to take in any more information and you get locked in. So I'll see something and I'll be like, yeah, that's right. But I always reserve 30% to really make sure it's right. I just don't lock down. So when I seen the brother today talking about the situation with Trump in the black schools, I was like, yeah, he's right, but only 70%. And then when I got through watching them, then I started thinking on the other 30%, and I came with the conclusion, he not really right. So I kind of got hyped because it was pro-black. And see, because he was talking on behalf of black people, that could blind me to not really look at, even though he's talking on our behalf, is the information accurate? But I'm not the type of person that would go on the brother's platform and say anything. I'm against that. I'm against that. I'm against going on this platform and saying anything. Okay? Because to me, that shows disrespect to the brother's platform. Okay? And for those who want to know what I'm talking about, go watch my man, Indisputable, with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, who's I've never seen him be wrong. Today is the first time I kind of disagree with him. But I would never go on in his comments and say what I'm saying now. I just come say it on my own platform. And he would have to invite me over there for me to have a discussion with him, not a debate, a discussion. And then I would be honored to come and express my point of view compared to his point of view. But I would always respect him on his platform and let him know I appreciate everything he do, because if he didn't have a point of view, I wouldn't be able to create a point of view. So he is doing hard work to be able to put me in a position to even think about this situation. So I'm always going to respect him, because if he didn't bring this up, I don't think I would have knew anything about it, because I haven't really been watching Chicago politics that much, because I don't watch TV, so I don't know what's going on. If I was watching CBS and ABC and NBC Chicago, I would know what's going on, but I don't really watch TV. The only thing I watch on TV is Raising Canaan or 50 Cent shows, and that's it. The TV be off. I don't watch TV, or when there's storms coming, I'll turn on the Weather Channel, but I don't watch TV. Because TV ain't as good as social media. Social media is popping. I like Instagram and YouTube. TikTok, I don't look at TikTok a lot, but I love YouTube and Instagram. I don't do Facebook a lot. I post on Facebook, but I don't read Facebook because Facebook is kind of argumentative. But I do go on Facebook when I can't find a story. Facebook got it. Yeah, if I can't find something going on, two places I might be able to find it. First, I try to check TikTok. TikTok, it's hard to find the story on Instagram, but I can find the story sometime on TikTok. But I can find any story on Facebook. So when it's something I'm looking for that's going on and I can't find it nowhere, I go to Facebook. And Facebook, all you do is search the name and go scroll. You're going to see the video. Right? So we got 95 people over here. Hit the like button. We finna talk about this very interesting situation. This is a very interesting. I'm going to talk about Donald Trump, and I'm going to talk about Chicago public schools. This is fire. This is going to be a fire conversation for those that are open-minded, that really want to expand your mind, right? So hit the like button. Let's take a little break. Let's push reparations. And then we're going to get to talking about the conversation. Hit the like button. Mods, get them to hit the like button. Get them to share, subscribe, and get them to donate to the channel. And we'll be popping off in 5 minutes. Okay, so this is what's going on. The city of Chicago is pushing a plan. It's called Support the Black Student Success Plan. Support the Black Student Success Plan. They want to try to put energy into the black students to get their grades up, to get them to be able to, do better in school. So they have this plan that they want to push to help the black students, right? This came from my brother, watching my brother on Indisputable, Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Y'all go subscribe to Dr. Rashad Ritchie. He was talking about this early. I watched it earlier today. And he was talking about this earlier today. Right? So this Dr. Rashad Ritchie. It's right here. It's the video at the top to your left. Trump declares war on schools over Black student success plan. Right? This posted 5 hours ago. And I watched it. I thought it was interesting. And then when I watch things like that, my mind starts to spinning. So my mind got to spinning. I watch him all the time. He's great. I love watching him. I've never disagreed with him, right? And so when I watched him today, I didn't disagree with him either. I just watched it. But what happened is when I logged off, I started thinking about it. I started thinking and thinking and thinking. And so when I started thinking, now what he was saying is that Trump is fighting against black people. He was saying that Trump is fighting against black Americans. So Trump is trying to shut down anything that happens, anything that helps black Americans. Because Trump said that if they call it, if they have a support black student success plan, that they will not be funded by the United States government, that he will cut off funding to any school that has that. So now I started thinking about that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have to agree with Donald Trump. I have to. Because there's nothing in this country named white. There is no white nothing in this country. There's nothing named white in this country. There is no white people's fund. There is no white nothing. There is no white funding or no white programs that say white programs. Doesn't exist. Well, not really. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. It's not Jim Crow. There is no programs in the federal government, right? Because we're not talking about Jim Crow. We're talking about 2025. Jim Crow been over since 1970. And since 1970 till now, there is nothing white. White Americans cannot name anything white. Okay, MD? So people that say, why we can't name it black. You can name it black, but it can't be paid for by taxpayers. It has to be independent. But even that gets a little funny because nobody else got nothing white or nothing black. So I was talking to somebody on the phone before I went live, and they said, yeah, but they don't have to have nothing white. But then that's why I had to let them know they got things for themselves, but they're smart enough not to call it white. Okay? So he said they had they said, listen, he said they had a 400-year head start. That has nothing to do with you still doing stuff for yourself. That has nothing to do with it. So I'm not saying that we can't have programs, but the government cannot fund a program called white or black. The government can't fund that. The government cannot fund anything. Show me one government program called white. Stick on the subject, Sasha. We talk about the name. You want to talk about where we was going. Let's just talk about the name of the program. Okay? Because I see where you're going, but you're off subject. We're talking about the name of the program. Show me a program in the United States called white today. I don't want to hear about way back. Show me a program today that's called white. If you can't do that, then you're off subject. You're not ready to have this discussion. You're trying to bounce all around. Show me a government funding program called white. Sacha? If you can't show me that, then you're off subject. Then you're off subject. They don't call it white. So you're off subject. You don't know what I'm saying. We don't have to either. We don't have to call it that. You know why they don't have to call it that? Because when they got programs and it's an all-white school, they benefit. If you got programs, it's an all-black school, you're going to benefit. So we don't have to call it black. So you're saying the only way we could teach our children and have programs for our children, we got to call it black? Because I don't think you understand what I'm saying. Let's talk about the program. The program is to help students. Are you telling me the only way we can help students in our community is call it black? Is that what you're saying? Checkmate. No. You don't have to call it black. And you cannot call it black if it's government funded. If you don't understand that, then I'm talking over your head. No, you can't call it none of that because it's in the Chicago public schools. So if it's in the Chicago public schools, right, you would call it the Success Program. If you call it the Success Program and you put it in the schools, what would happen in the black community? Where the black schools? Then they, right, would get the Success Program because they're black. So why would you have to name it a specific race when you put it in the school, the Success Program? Then at the black school, they'll take the Success Program. Now, mind you, it's also misguided because a lot of whites are failing. And so it's also false to think that whites are doing well in school. That is not true. If you go to a white school, right, you have the smart kids, you have the drug addicts, and you have whites be failing. I went to a Lutheran school. Whites don't all get A's. When you go to a school, there's a small group that's getting all A's. Everybody's not the all A students. And you have students struggling. So if you're going to use tax dollars, why shouldn't all students benefit that? Right? Because it's called the Chicago public schools. It's not the black public schools. So how can you have a black program at Chicago public schools? If it's in the Chicago public schools, it's got to benefit Chicago and all students in Chicago. You can't have a white program in Chicago public schools. You can't have a Chinese program in Chicago public schools. You can have a language program. You can have an Hispanic program based on they can't speak good English. You can have that because they can't speak English. So they really would need special needs, but it's not based on their race. It's based on the language barrier. But you cannot, I agree with Trump, you cannot take tax dollars that everybody's paying tax and then have something special for one group. Like me, I would not want to pay tax and it go to no white stuff. Which one of y'all would want to pay tax that go to some special, some named white advancement classes? Come on. People try to dodge off. Well, they busy ahead and try to say everything. Listen, stay on subject. Let's stay on subject. When you talk about the 1960s, we talk about today, taxpayers. Can you expect all taxpayers to pay for a white program or a red or a yellow or a black program? No. You have the program. If it's needed in an Asian school, then they use it. If it's needed in a black school, you use it. Why does it have to be specially black when you got black schools? You got black neighborhoods, the majority black, and if you got the program, then the program would be in the black community. But you can't have a program just for blacks in the black community, and you calling it Chicago. Chicago is not black. Chicago is multicultural. So how are you going to have a black program in Chicago? Chicago's not black. Chicago's everybody. Name one. Name one. Unless you can name one, it's just talk. Name one, Jupiter. Because under the Trump administration, they're going to get defunded. Let me ask you this, Jupiter. Do you think that's going to stay under the Trump administration? It's not. That was under the Biden administration, and the Democrats did that stupid stuff. There will not be no Asian programs under the Trump administration. And the Trump administration is right. They got to get rid of all that. That's all got to go. It can't be no Asian programs, can't be no black, can't be none of that. It's just got to be for the students. So when you say it's in California, that's not under the Trump administration. It's the Trump administration that's saying he getting rid of that. So for you to go back and say something that was there, yeah, it was there, but we talk about Trump. And Trump said he don't like none of that. So now it's questionable if Trump going to get rid of it, but you can believe he is. Right. And you think Trump going to let that ride? No. Right? Because we're talking about Trump said what Trump said, and Trump just got back president. So for you to bring up something when he wasn't president, you have no proof that he's not going to get rid of that. Do you have proof, Jupiter, that he ain't going to get rid of that too? No. You don't have proof that he's not going to get rid of that because he's only been in there a little bit over 100 days. Unless you ain't understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying Trump is saying this. Now, you're bringing up something that didn't happen under the Trump administration. So what you're saying is irrelevant unless Trump stays in there and nothing ever happens. But we can't say he's not going to get rid of it. So until we see if he get rid of it or not, we can't say that's going to ride. But I would bet that if it come across his desk, he going to get rid of it. I would bet you $2,000 he'll get rid of it. Ain't finna be no Asian nothing unless it's based on trying to help you with your language. Ain't finna be no Asian, ain't finna be no black. Not under the Trump administration. What you think about that, Jupiter? You don't think he's gonna get rid of that? He's gonna get rid of that. He's gonna get rid of that. Rightfully so. There shouldn't be no Asian, no black, no white, none of that. There shouldn't be that. So you saying it's there, but it shouldn't be. And we don't know if it's going to be there. He only been in office. I guarantee you by the time this year is over, it ain't going to be there. He's not going to just stop with the black. I definitely agree with Trump getting rid of race. I agree 100% with Trump on that. I agree with Trump getting rid of all racial special programs that's paid for by the United States government. The United States government, the state government, and the city government and the county government cannot pay for any specific racial programs. Okay? If you are working for the state of Illinois, you got to take care of people in the state of Illinois. You cannot specify. You cannot specify with government funding. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying, though, Jupiter? You see what I'm saying? You should not be able to specify with government funding. Once it's government funding, it's for everybody. What you think? Don't that make sense, Jupiter? It's like it's government funding. And government funding comes for everybody. We're all paying taxes. We're all paying federal taxes. We're all paying state taxes. We're all paying county taxes. And we're all paying city taxes. Everybody from every race. Unless you came as an immigrant and you get a tax break for 7 years. So why should you take everybody's money and then have something for a specific group? That's not fair. That's I don't agree with. You cannot take my tax dollars and spend it for no group. When I pay taxes to Chicago, it's for Chicago. When I pay taxes to Illinois, it's for Illinois. When I pay taxes to the United States government, it's for the United States government. Now, let's say I pay taxes to Illinois and they taking a whole bunch of money and giving it to a disproportionately to whites and not blacks. We supposed to complain because that money's supposed to be broke off to everybody in the proper proportion that is paid. So one sin don't cover the other sin. I mean, I don't know. I can't say it's been extra scrutiny because in Chicago we've had plenty of black programs. So I don't really believe that. I don't really believe that because we got HBCUs. What's the name of the Asian colleges? We have historically black colleges and universities. Name the Asian. What's the Asian ones called? So some people could say, well, why y'all got historically black colleges? We don't. We Asians. We Hispanics. Is there historically Spanish? You see what I'm saying? So black people got favoritism, got their own stuff. If we're going to do tit for tat, because we have historically black colleges and universities. What's the difference? All I'm saying is that what Trump is saying is right. Now, we have to see if he's going to do it across the board, which he probably will. But I have to agree with him. I have to agree with him because you can't do race with tax dollars. He cannot be anti-black with the government because the government is not supposed to be pro-black in the first place. And I don't agree with the Chicago Public Schools having a black program. I don't agree with it. There's no need to have a black program. Glenn, is there a need to have a black program at the schools? Glenn, do you believe there has to be a special black program for blacks at school? Yes or no? Do you believe there needs to be a special program for blacks? Because I don't believe you could pick anything that blacks need specially that other kids might not need. So you would just have the program and whoever needs it, get in it. So if more blacks need it, then more blacks will take advantage of it. It's like summer school. You go to summer school when you fail. You just, okay? It's not just that. It's government money. It's not about saying we retire. It's government money. Government money cannot be racial. This is very simple. But the black man's not governmental. So you can't understand what I'm saying. If I'm running the government, I don't have any specific programs. I have programs for all the children that have learning problems. I don't have black program for the blacks that's having a learning program because not only the blacks are having a problem. And I cannot take federal dollars from everybody and say, well, this money just going to go to this group. No, they're not saying black. No, they're not saying blacks are slow. They just wasn't thinking when they named it. They're not saying blacks are slow. Okay? They're not saying blacks are slow. But blacks are behind because black parents are not doing a good job. Black parents are doing the worst job when it comes to school. So am I saying black people are retarded? No, but I'm definitely saying that black parents are the worst parents when it comes to education. We're the only ones let our kids go up to that school and fail like that. That is a fact. And black people don't want to stand on nothing. Black people are the worst when it comes to making our children do good in school. If I'm wrong, say I'm wrong. Let me see who bold enough to lie and say I'm wrong. Say I'm lying. Say I'm lying. Black Americans, parents, are the worst parents in this country when it comes to making their children go to school and behave and get good grades. Say I'm lying. Say I'm lying. Say I'm lying. Answer the question, Sharon. I said that black parents are the worst parents when it comes to going to school. Now, Sharon says, do we trust a white-led government to be fair? Listen, this has nothing to do with being fair. He's not going to run the public schools. He's just saying he's not going to give no money to the public schools if it's ran based on race. He's not saying he's taking over the schools. The black people in the blacks, everybody will still run their schools. What he's saying is he's not going to take government money and send it to no specific group. Government money goes to everybody in the government. He's not saying anything about coming in Chicago and taking over public schools. He's saying if y'all going to have a racial program, we're not going to fund it because we're the United States government. We cannot fund a racial program. And he's 100 billion% correct. Look, y'all ask me some questions. Let's take another break. Okay, let me ask y'all a question. Let's say on the south side of Chicago, let's say there's 20 black schools on the far south side of Chicago. There's mostly black students. If you put a program in Chicago public schools, right, that's a success program, won't those black students benefit from it? I'm confused. If you put programs in the Chicago public schools, success programs in all the schools, would the blacks, if you had 20 black schools on the far south side, wouldn't they benefit from it? Wouldn't they benefit? Wouldn't you just benefit from it by just being in the black community and is in the school? And do you think it's fair to just help the black children that's behind? Because to just help the black children that's behind is not wise for educators because a lot of children are behind. There's white men downtown right now begging for money. So I don't know if y'all think white people are successful. They're not. They have dropouts too. They have children with learning disabilities. That's not racial. The ability to be able to learn and comprehend is not racial, which is one reason they don't want you to go to school with them because you'll see they're not what you think they are. It's all fake. They struggle just like everybody else. And so when I got a chance to get out of public school and go to Lutheran school, I learned there wasn't no difference. There ain't no difference like y'all think. There are whites that can't do well in school. And because you see so many whites doing well, you begin to think all white. No. I went to a Lutheran school and the smart kids was white and black. It was some white ones that was the top of the class and some black ones. And then there was some white ones and the black ones that was pretty good like me, get A's, B's, and G's. But you had white ones and black ones that get all A's. Then you had people that do nothing. And they was white and they was black. That failed. That had to go to summer school. It wasn't like just blacks. So I'm saying if you're going to give money to the school, you shouldn't help all the children that's behind. You can't take government money and give it to a specific group. So Trump is doing his job when it comes to that. This is government money. If you want to have a specific program, open a religious school, open a Catholic school, open a Lutheran school. Now, because you don't get money for the slow people in the back, I went to a Lutheran school and we didn't get no money from the government. The parishioners pay for that, and your parents have to pay a tuition, like college. My parents paid for me to go to Luther South. So don't get it messed up. Religious schools don't get no money from the government. Religious schools don't get no money from the government. Private schools do not get money from the government. So if you want to have a private black school, then you got to pay for it. But the government will not pay for that. The government only pay for public schools, and the public is everybody. The public is not black. The public is not white. The public is not Asian. No, it's not. This is not the LGBTQ. Listen, please don't step on my conversation. Don't step on my conversation. This has nothing to do with LGBTQ. That's false information. This has something to do with them trying to have a program and call it black with government money, and government money is not black. What are we doing? You cannot be that stubborn where you don't see it laid right there. Government money is not black, white, or none of that. It's government money. Why? Because everybody's paying taxes. Everybody's paying taxes. So y'all don't pay taxes? You understand? Y'all don't pay taxes. Everybody pays taxes, Josh. So you can't take taxes and then do specialty stuff. Taxes is for the public. So these educators are not intelligent because they could have just named it. They could have just named it Student Success Plan. That's all they had to do. All they had to do was name it Support the Student Success Plan. And then the Student Success Plan would have been at all the schools. And then the black schools would have had what? Black Student Success Plan, because they black. The white schools, it would have basically been a white student success plan because they white. Why do you have to name it black as long as blacks is getting it? I'm tripping. Listen, if your kids got a student success plan, do it got to be named black? No. It don't got to be named black for black children to have a student success plan. Why it gotta be black? Why it gotta be named black? This show you the educators, they ain't that smart. The educators ain't that smart. How do you work for a public school and think you can name some stuff racial? It's a public school. It's not a black school. Mind you, a lot of these public schools got all kind of people go there. So imagine you got a school in a black community, but some Mexicans live in the area and they go to the school. So can they go to the class? Because look, my parents lived on the far south side. And on the far south side we lived, the neighborhood used to be kind of white. And when blacks moved in, the whites moved. But there was one white family, they probably was poor, didn't own their house or didn't have enough money to move. So the boy name was Russell, and his sister went to school with us. They was the only whites at this new black school, Higgins, out on 117th Street. And one day, I was young. I probably was in the 5th grade. I seen some racial stuff on TV. So I had like this racial thing going. So he had his hand in the window, and I slammed his hand in the window. But I felt bad about it because he was cool, really. It wasn't his fault that his parents still lived there, and him and his sister had to go to school with all these black kids, but he was a cool dude. And I let stuff I see on the TV affect me. So I apologized and I befriended him because I shouldn't have did that. But my point is, if you got, he was kind of not really no real smart white kid. So you telling me we should have had programs up there that he can't go to? We should have had a black program that Russell couldn't go to? That don't make no sense. Because all of the schools in the black community ain't necessarily 100% black. The school might be on the border. So what about at the mixed schools? What about the schools that's right there where whites live here, blacks, and they go to school together? You can have a black program that the white kids can't. What is Chicago Public School doing? It's a lot of schools that are not necessarily black or white. They're Chicago schools. All kind of people go there. So we got areas in Chicago where blacks go to the school, Arabs go to the school, Hispanics go to the school, whites go to the school, and Asians go to the school. Can you have a black program at those schools? No. Okay, so if you can't have it there, then the blacks there can't. I'm confused. Because most people think everything is black and white. Everything's not black and white. There's neighborhoods where everybody live at. So how can you have a black program at a school where everybody go to the school? These are facts. I got $5,000. I can take you a bunch of schools in Chicago, and the whole goddamn world is at that school. So how you gonna have a black program at a school where everybody go? Especially on the north side. Do y'all know at the north side of Chicago, don't you know black Americans, Africans, all type of different Arabs and Iranians and whites and all kind of Asians go to them schools? Them schools ain't got no particular race. It's just a north side school. And on the north side, you have everybody living in the schools right here and everybody living around it, and they all go to school. Anybody from Chicago, would you tell them? Would you tell them about the north side? The whole north side is multicultural. Reparations wouldn't come from taxpayers. Reparations would come, the government would get reparations from the corporations that made the money. So you're wrong. Next, the government does not have to get reparations for tax dollars. The government can get reparations from all of the companies that made all that money. MetLife, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. The government could solicit them for the money. Checkmate. Next. Somebody, you know what I'm saying? Checkmate. You don't know what you're talking about. One of the reasons that the government don't understand, because black people ain't telling them that they're supposed to get the money from the corporations that got rich. Okay? You don't want this work over here, okay? All right, look. Let's deal with that, and then we go. Let's deal with that first. Let's deal with first things first. Let's deal with what he said. Let me show you what he said is 100% wrong. Let's deal with that. Let's deal with that first. Because there's this need to debate when a lot of times people don't know what the hell they're talking about. Let's show who owes reparations, all right?
13 corporations that profited from slavery. So here we go. Number 1, J.P. Morgan Chase. Between 1831 and 1865, two predecessor banks, Citizens Bank and Canal Bank in Louisiana, accepted approximately 13,000 enslaved individuals as collateral on loans and took ownership of approximately 1,250 of them when the plantation owners defaulted on the loans. Number 2, New York Life, an insurance company, sold insurance policies on enslaved Africans. Number 3, Wachovia. Two historical predecessors owned enslaved Africans and accepted them as payment. Number 4, N.M. Rothschild and Sons Bank in London. Nathan Mayer Rothschild, the banking family's 19th century patriarch, made personal gains by using enslaved Africans as collateral in dealings with a slave owner. I have a list of this, so if I stumble, it's because I have a lot of chicken scratch. Number 4, Norfolk Southern offered slaveholders $180. That's $3,379 today. This article was written in 2013. So that's $3,379 today a piece for enslaved Africans they would rent to the railroad for 1 year. The Central Georgia, another company aligned with Norfolk Southern Line today, valued slaves at $31,303. Today that would be $663,033. Did I say that right? Yes. $663,033. Hopefully that came out right. Sounds weird. Number 5, U.S. Today found that their parent company, E.W. Scripps and Gannett, had links to the slave trade. Number 6, Fleet Boston evolved from an early financial institution. Providence Bank founded John Brown, who was a slave trader and owned ships used to transport enslaved Africans. The bank financed Brown's slave voyages and profited from them. Brown even reportedly helped charter what became Brown University. Number 7, CSX used slave labor to construct portions of U.S. rail lines under the political and legal system that was in place more than a century ago. Two enslaved Africans were John Henry and Reuben. The record states they were to be returned clothed when they arrived to work for the company. Number 8, Canadian National Railway Company. The Mobile and Ohio, now part of Canadian National, valued their slaves lost to the war and emancipation at $199,691 on record. That amount is currently worth $2.2 million. Whew. Number 9, Brown Brothers Harriman, the oldest and largest private investment bank, founded 1818, owned hundreds of enslaved Africans and financed the cotton economy by lending millions to Southern planters, merchants, and cotton brokers. Number 10, Brooks Brothers, high-end suit retailer, got their start selling slave clothes to various slave traders in the 1800s. They got their start by selling slave clothes. Number 11, Barclays. British multinational banking and financial services company headquartered in London has now conceded that companies brought over the years may have been involved in the slave trade. Number 12, Lehman Brothers. This business empire started in the slave trade. Quote from Joe Pelizzotto: "This is a sad part of our history or our heritage. We're deeply apologetic. It was a terrible thing. There's no one sitting in the United States in the year 2005, hopefully, who would ever in a million years defend the practice." 13, Aetna. Aetna? Aetna. U.S. largest health insurer, apologized for selling policies in the 1850s that reimbursed slave owners for financial losses when the enslaved Africans they owned died. Aetna has long acknowledged that for several years shortly after its founding in 1853, that the company may have insured the lives of slaves. A few other people or a few other corporations, companies that profited from slavery: Princeton, Harvard Law School, Tiffany & Co., Bank of America, Yale University, and Wells Fargo.
So that's who would pay reparations. The government. The reason that they are saying that it would be paid from tax dollars is to get white Americans to go against it, to say, why should we pay our tax dollars for something that happened a long time ago? So that's sabotage by them pretending that they have to pay it from tax dollars. That's sabotage, right? That's sabotage. Because why would they pay it from tax dollars when all these people got trillions of dollars from slavery and have reinvested it? So they're sabotaging reparations by making white Americans think they got to take it from the citizens when they don't. That's that, and the reparations, people in the reparations movement ain't doing what I'm doing and setting that record straight. Because if everybody was doing what I was doing, we could end that conversation about it's going to come from the taxpayers. It don't got to come from the taxpayers. The cotton industry could pay it by themselves. The cotton industry could pay reparations to Black Americans and still have money. So you're going for the okie doke when they tell you it's coming from the taxpayers. They know damn well it don't got to come from the taxpayers. It could come from the people that been flipping that money, because they've been flipping that money. So all them millions they made back then, they've been flipping it and flipping it and flipping it, flipping that slave money. They know who got the money. They just running the game to make white Americans not want to give it to us, because they making white Americans think they got to pay it when they don't got to pay it. Them 18 companies got to pay it, and they got it. And there's more companies than that. There's more companies than that made money off of that. Because the cotton industry have a whole logo. They have a whole logo. She didn't mention the cotton industry. You notice she couldn't mention the cotton industry because there's no particular business. So the cotton industry have hid their business in a way where you can't get the money. Think about it. What's the name of the cotton industry? Don't got no name, do it? It don't got no name. Think about it. What's the name of the cotton industry? Think about it. Think about it. What's the name of the cotton industry? What's the name of the company that's using this logo? You ever notice it ain't one? There's a logo, but no company. So who's using this logo? Because there's no company using this logo, but it's a logo. So somebody own it. Who own this logo? They did that to hide the money. Who owns this logo? Name the company that owns this logo. Because this logo is owned, but name the company. Name the company. Because this company is behind everything made in cotton, not just women. Any cotton is under this logo. Any cotton in the United States is, and probably Europe too. It's probably an international logo. Name the company that's under this logo. It doesn't exist. It's a ghost because they have buried the money. I did my research. They set it up, right? They set it up where they buried the money. Yeah, you're right, JR. They set it up where this company can't be sued because they cannot be identified. It's a company with no identification. Yeah, it's called Cotton, but you can't find the company nowhere. So it's a company called Cotton, but you can't find them nowhere. Because they're just involved with the trading and the, okay? They're like a shadow company. And they owe us more than anybody. How much cotton did we pick? We built this logo. So all this white people talking about why should they pay? My question to white people, should the cotton industry pay? Because you see what I'm saying? So they playing with you. That's why you need these people need to be listening to me so that they can come with the right information to get reparations. The reparation leadership, they ain't talking that right talk. Yeah, they made it non-for-profit. They made it non-for-profit. Imagine that. But they're getting profits, but it's called non-for-profit. And they made it non-for-profit so they wouldn't have to pay reparations. That's why they made it non-profit, because you know damn well they for profit. Ain't no way they non-for-profit. Ain't no way. But if the government looked into it, they got small companies that they own that are for profit. No, they not hitting on them points. They ain't standing on nothing. I'm out here by myself. You know what I'm saying? Because ain't nobody pushing the idea that the company's supposed to pay us. And they got white Americans think they supposed to pay us to keep white Americans thinking, why should I pay for it? So it's sabotage. Lying to white Americans, telling them they got to pay it when white Americans ain't got the money. These industries got the money. Wells Fargo got the money. Bank of America got the money. Chase and all these other banks that didn't change their name how many times, they got the money. The cotton industry got the money. And all them 18 companies they named, they got the money. The railroad got the money. They got the money. They never talk about the companies that actually made the money, that have stacked that into trillions and trillions of dollars. I'm not finna answer that, follow the logic, because you can't help us get it. So I'm not going back and forth with you. The question is why you don't think they gotta pay. Why you think the people that made the money don't gotta pay? That's the question. Oh, they didn't question me. Why you think the people that made the money off slavery don't gotta pay it? Let me ask you a question. Because they the ones made the money. The government didn't make no money off slavery. The government taxed them. Who made the money? The government didn't make the money. The companies made the money. I ain't finna argue with nobody with no cartoon and stuff. No, he ain't on nothing. He ain't on nothing. I already broke it down. The sister already broke it down. You understand? He want to say the government because he want to work with white Americans. So then they could say, why should taxpayers? So he the enemy right now. Because I already told him, right, that they want to, the reason they keep saying the government is so because the white people don't feel like they should pay it. So what he want to do is he talking white European talking points, saying the government, which the government will get it from the taxpayers. And the taxpayers don't feel like they should have to pay it because they wasn't here. But Lehman Brothers, the cotton industry, Wells Fargo and them was here. And they directly made the money. So for him to ask something like that, just show he ain't for reparations. He not pushing reparations. He's just over here. He ain't for reparations. You know what I'm saying? All plantations was not owned by the Masons and stuff. The plantations was owned by the banks. Look, we're going to get back to the conversation. This is how it went. America came over. The first business was cattle. The banks was on the East Coast. The banks funded the cattlemen. Then they built the railroad to go from the east to go west. As the railroad went from the east to go west, across America, you had towns. The leader of the town owned the bank. So if you watch these old cowboy pictures, you go to the saloon, the cowboys come in with the cattle. They turn the cattle into the ranch right outside of town. They come to the saloon, they party, they sleep with the prostitute. There's a bad guy in the movie. He owns everything. He owns the bank. He owns the saloon. He's the mayor. The number one gunslinger is his sheriff and his deputy. Right? So now they building the railroad. They got the banks. The cowboys robbing the banks. So they got to make the banks stronger and stronger and stronger. That's how you got banks now with them big old vaults. That started developing to stop Jesse James and all of them, right? So the cotton industry is coming. As the cotton industry is coming, the railroad is coming. The cattle is the first industry. Then the cotton industry is coming. Now the people that got the money is going from out west back east. If you watch an old cowboy picture, you'll see the stagecoach come with the big shots from the east. The lady step out. She dressed better than all the ladies there. Just got to watch, they show you. So the banks go from the east to the west because they said, go west, young man, go west. So all the money was coming from the east, right? So now you got farms in the south. The banks is the one holding the mortgage on the farmers down south. Now, certain farmers might got just 100 slaves or 50 slaves. Other plantations might got thousands of slaves. So the plantation got thousands of slaves can pay the bank. But the plantation that's got thousands of slaves is making all the money and starving out. The plantation's got a few. Now these plantations is growing crops. Now, if you know anything about growing crops, the poor slave owners were sharecroppers. They were sharecropping crops and they were sharecropping the slaves. So the smaller slave owners was getting money from the banks up east to be able to buy their seeds and even stay in business, right? The bigger farms and the bigger plantations is making a lot of money. So now as they start to create the cotton gin and all this, it goes to the bigger plantations. The bigger plantations is doing good. The smaller plantations get behind. Now, because of the big plantations that take over, they want to monopolize all the land. They want to drive the small plantations out. So now the small plantations get in debt with the banks. So now the banks got to go down south and foreclose on the poor whites that's barely making it in slavery. Well, back in those days, when they went down there to collect their money, sometimes the white slave owner, the poor one, would shoot the man because he tried to take their land. So the bank starts sending U.S. Marshals, which is like the army, down to foreclose the poor whites' land. The poor whites start getting together to fight against these army that was coming in behalf of the banks to take their land. And that's what started the Civil War. The Civil War started because the bank was foreclosing on the poor slave owners' land. And they started to shoot when it was time to collect. Because back in those days, they would send a marshal, and if the marshal couldn't get it done, they had forts, and they would go get troops to go with them. So the poor whites start shooting the U.S. troops and marshals, so they start sending more troops and more marshals. The whites down there start getting together and building them an army. Civil War. The Civil War wasn't over freeing the slaves. The Civil War was over them foreclosing on the poor whites. The whites that was rich, that had a bunch of slaves, they was already cooked up with the bank. So they didn't care. They already getting tractors. They already getting the cotton gin. They already got airplanes to spray their crops. They moving up. They working with the banks up north to monopolize. If you think I'm lying, go down south now and you see the finished product. You drive and one company owns how many acres? That started then. So that's when the Civil War started, because the banks was foreclosing on the slave owners that didn't have many slaves and couldn't keep up with the rich slave owners. Then after the Civil War, what happened? Whites was still mad, and they became what? Bonnie and Clyde and bank robbers. And then they became bank robbers and would go across state lines and rob the bank. And when the sheriff would chase them, once they crossed state line, they couldn't chase them. So then America formed what? The FBI. They formed a federal police department that could still chase you across state lines. But they don't tell you that Bonnie and Clyde and all that go together. All that's the whole story. They was robbing banks because the people up north had took their parents and their grandparents' land. So they was mad. And there's a movie show that. I forgot the name of it. It's a movie that show that the white grandson seen the bankers up north take his granddaddy land, and when he grew up, he became a bank robber. They ain't not gonna take. That's what it was really all about. So these bankers and these slave plantations that had thousands of slaves, they made millions. And the bank was making money from both ends because the bank was the one that was getting them the seed. The bank was the one buying the stuff when the stuff got done. And then they took that money and what? They built a steam engine, and then they started running the cotton up the Mississippi on the steamboats. Right? So let me show you who was making the money. Let me show you who was making the money from slavery. Who got our money? They got our money. See up north? Where all the cotton ended up. Where did all the cotton end up? See up north? See them gangsters in them gangster suits? Look on your left and look at the one with the black coat with his hand in his pocket on that thing. You see the shooter on the left with the black hat on, the long black coat, and his hand in his pocket? You see the shooter on the right, the boss? You see the boss? You see that worker with the white coat on, he's the supervisor, right? The garment district, yeah, of New York. Would you tell them, Goshen, New York got all that money, didn't they? And Philadelphia, but mainly New York. But look, you see the one in the white coat? He's the worker. You see the gangsters? The one in the jacket is the head gangster there. The one in the long coat is the shooter. And this is who made all the money. This was made all the money. And this was the most money in the U.S. history. And that's why they said, what was king? Not cattle wasn't king. Oil wasn't king. Gold wasn't king. Cotton was king. Look, it say the leader of all. This was the big, big, big money. And them companies got our reparations. They still got the money. They've been flipping it and flipping it. They didn't go back down. They went up. They've been flipping. They got our money. The government ain't got to give us nothing. The government knows who got our money. They just playing dumb. Okay, so let's get back to the original conversation. I had to do that because I had people coming over here talk about what they don't know what they talking about. And you're talking to the wrong one. I know I'm not on the internet. I'm not Dr. So-and-so. I'm not the guy doing lectures. But them guys, I'll eat them all for lunch unless I agree with them. It ain't none of these scholars out here want none of this smoke. I'm just not in their lane. I don't do the big time scholar stuff. I don't do the lectures. I talk to the people for free on YouTube. I don't charge y'all. I don't do the lectures. I could. You know how much money I could get for lectures if I clean it up and don't be talking crazy? I could be the #1 lecturer out here, really, to be honest with you. To be honest. Them other lecturers, they ain't talk about nothing. They don't break it down to today. They just keep talking about a whole bunch of historical hogwash. There's nobody breaking down the past to today. So the same way the corporations got to pay the taxes and all that, the United States government now takes our money and pays for the schools and stuff like that. That's the people's money. So now the people's money can't go for no racial stuff. So Trump is 1,000,000,000% right. You cannot take government money and do nothing racial. White people are not doing nothing directly racial with the money. What white people are doing are living in a neighborhood where you can't afford to live, so it's racial by default when the money comes to their school. It's racial by default. You understand? Because whites pay way more taxes because whites own where you live at. So let me give you an example. O-Block. O-Block is owned by a company in Texas. That company in Texas is the one that make all that money. Okay? So that money, the taxes get paid on O-Block in Texas. They don't pay the taxes here. So if you live in a place in Philadelphia, but the people own it, live in Toledo, all that money they get from you gets paid in tax dollars in Toledo. It doesn't get paid in tax dollars where you at. So a lot of the money in the Black community is going out to other communities where they're paying the taxes out there. So then they build their schools out there with the tax money, but it's your money, but not really because the owner don't live where you live. So they're taking the money out of the Black community and paying the owner pays taxes where they live at. If all those tax dollars they took was paid to Chicago from O-Block, Chicago would have more money. But it's not get paid to Chicago. That money, that tax money is paid in Texas where the company that owns O-Block is at. So all of these companies are sucking all this money out the Black community. They paying taxes somewhere else. So if you live in Detroit, but your landlord live in the suburbs of Detroit, the taxes get paid in the suburbs for your house that you paying rent on. The only way you pay taxes there is if you paying the city taxes. But all your rent money or all your mortgage money is going out there to whoever owns it. So this is how they siphoning money out of the community. And they not going to pay for no Black stuff or nothing like that. Because the Black community in Chicago don't got all the money to pay for the schools because a lot of money being made in Chicago ain't being made by people that live in Chicago. A lot of the people that's making money in Chicago live somewhere else, and that money going there. So when you see these white Americans coming from the suburbs to Chicago and working, they come and working here and taking that money out to Schaumburg, taking that money out to the white neighborhood and paying the taxes with that money out there. They sucking the money out of the Black city and taking it to the white suburbs and paying taxes on it out there for their schools. And then they set up their schools and they don't call them white. It's just a school. And it's just got everything out there. They don't have to call it white. Now the Black man, he not working together, so he ain't ciphering no money to be able to pay a lot of money for taxes in his school. You ain't got no money. You ain't working together. You're not corporate. The Black man's not corporate.